Well, South Africa could soon regulate social media. The country's State Security Ministry confirmed. Now, they cited social media as proliferating fake news and scams. At the same time, State Security Minister David Malobo hinted that they are already eavesdropping on South Africans when he said, quote-unquote, attempts at regime change are happening. We know who does what, end quote. Now, while addressing journalists, regulating social media on a daily basis is synonymous with countries like China and the United Arab Emirates. And even so, some countries across the continent have always only done that during election periods or during civil unrest, like the case of Cameroon right now, where Anglophone speakers are protesting against marginalization.
Finally, what is new today is not so much false information than the unprecedented scale it has taken on social media and their massive strike force. Thanks to broadcasting on a large scale and targeting of their content, media houses reporting on misinformation have touched more and more on the extended audience and are gradually positioned as the flagships of the so-called free information, as opposed to institutionalized information from traditional media. The South African government has on its part decided to regulate a draft law on cybercrime and cybersecurity, intending to penalize offences on the internet, which is being prepared for 2 years and must then be submitted to Parliament. I have to say that South Africa is among the countries that have the most free media on the African continent.
And today we're being joined by editor of Cameroon Journal, Harrison Tamfu. Good morning, Harrison. The issue of regulating social networks across the continent arises day by day. Is this going to be a widespread trend in the near future?
It is actually one of the biggest challenges that we are facing now on the continent when it comes to communication, especially freedom of expression. Fake news is almost everywhere, especially in period of crisis, like what we have in South Africa. There's a lot of propaganda, because that's another word for fake news. A lot of propaganda going around there on both parties. People who support a cause, they want to spread fake news around in order to have the sympathy of and the support of almost everybody. It's the same thing that is going on in Cameroon, where there is a crisis with the Anglophone community. There's almost fake news everywhere, and people don't know what to believe again, because everybody is fabricating stories in his or her favor in order to win a cause or a battle.
Harrison, how easy is it to regulate or control without limiting the freedom of expression, which I believe is enshrined in a lot of constitutions for most countries?
Or to regulate fake news now, because of the advent of the social media. You know, since 2007, when Twitter, Facebook, and publishing platforms like WordPress gained prominence, everybody now is a publisher, or a journalist, or a communicator. To regulate that is very difficult, but it's not impossible. I think that governments around the continent, and this shouldn't give them the way in order to oppress the people. Government around the continent can come up with piece of legislations that sanction fake news on the continent. A lot of it. We have to let people know that there is quite a difference between news and fake news. And there are various ways of identifying this. If you hear news on Facebook or on Twitter, and then you watch the traditional media, that is television, radio, or newspaper, and you don't see that particular news item that you read on Twitter or Facebook, or all the social media networks, then there is a problem with that news item. People also have to be able to know that there are a lot of fake websites, and the people now have the ability to imitate websites and imitate journalism. That's one of the biggest problems with our profession, that the news format is easily imitated. Anybody can sit somewhere and write something that looks professional, that looks very journalistic, but which is not real.
Now, we always speak of fact-checking to counter false information in media. Could you please shed a light on this, please?
That is one of the major solutions to fake news. Now, fact-checking requires time, research, and investigation and also means. People who propagate fake news, and a lot of the consumers of fake news do not have the means to be able to identify whether this is fake news or not. But us as journalists, we have the ability to fact check stories that are coming even from the government. I did some fact checking in Cameroon when the president of the republic announced that he was going to deliver laptops free of charge to students in the universities. I fact checked and reported that this was a lie, that the laptops were not a gift from the government, and secondly, that the laptops could not be distributed to 500,000 university students in Cameroon, because there are not 500,000 university students in Cameroon. I made it clear in that report that this was a scam from the government, that it was fake. Now, other journalists around the continent can follow this example and get into stories, look at the story from different angles, and question, most especially, information that is coming from governments and the social media. I understand that fact-checking is a novelty on the continent. It's quite a novelty. Many journalists are not used to this. We need to sensitize journalists to get into fact-checking reporting.